All right, we'll continue now with the second demo, which is where we actually draw some content, make it a little bit more interesting in our scene. So remember, in our main view controller, our view controller, this is where we set up our demo scene, and then we present it here. So where are we going to add content to demo scene? In the demo scene class itself. So we need to know whether or not, first of all, whether or not the demo scene actually has any content. Because when we initialize the demo scene, when we draw it, we want to know if the content is already there or if we need to add the content. We only want to add the content one time. So here we go. A scene has a delegate method called didMoveToView. Every time a scene is moved to an SK view, the didMoveToView delegate method will be called. And here is where we're going to check the self-has-content property to see if it already has content. If it doesn't already have content, we want to add the content. So what we're doing is we're calling a method inside this method called createSceneWithBackgroundColor. And this is a method that we have added. And we're just going to give it a background color here, but we're going to return a Boolean and set self-has-content to that Boolean. So let's look at that method. We're returning a bool, and of course at the tail end we're just returning yes. We could check to see if anything had failed and return no from this to indicate that the scene had not been created. So we set the background color here to whatever we pass in, and then we set the scale mode of the scene, in this case, to the aspect fit scale mode. And we want to use the scale mode anytime that our scene is the same size as our UI main screen. Then we're going to add a new sprite node. So we're going to need a size for our sprite node, and I've just made it 50 by 50 points. And then I've got another method called SimpleSquareWithSize and color. And I'm just going to initialize something called square, which is an SK sprite node, using the return value of this SimpleSquareWithSize and color. We'll look at that in a minute. And then we're going to set the position. Remember, in core graphics, the position is the center point by default of the of a core graphics layer. So that's the same thing here. Sprite node relies heavily upon core graphics, or SpriteKit, sorry. So we're setting the square's position to just the midpoint of the screen for now. And then we add square as a child of our scene, self, and return yes again. So now let's look at the SimpleSquareWithSize and color. This is actually where the node gets created. First of all, we want to set the size of the square, and really we need to pass in size. So let's just do that. And that's the size argument that we set here. And then we'll also pass in the color. Instead of just saying yellow color here, we're going to pass in color. And there we go. So color and square size. We could also just simply say size here, and that would be fine. I apologize. I had a little bit of debug code here going on. So we create a new sprite node called square and simply return it. And that's all we need to do. So SpriteKit, we've created a node, we've added it to our scene, and then when the scene is presented, we know whether or not it already has content. And if it doesn't already have content, then we create the scene, which adds the node. So let's go ahead and do that. We've got a very simple tree. The root node is the scene with a blue background color, and then the one twig or branch of our tree is this single sprite. We can see that in our diagnostics we have one node, and there was only one draw pass, and we're running at 55 frames per second, give or take. So that's interesting. It's kind of boring. So we need to do something else here. We need to give it some motion. So let's add an action to our square node to make it rotate. So we know already from the discussion that actions are represented by a class called SKAction. So let's add one of those. And I'm just going to call this action, we're going to spin the thing, so I'm just going to call it spin. And that is going to be, and SKAction is very convenient. SKAction has a bunch of class methods. We don't have to alloc and init it. It'll just return an action with the actions that we indicate. So I just want a simple action, a single action here. So that's just going to be an SKAction. I better set spin equal to that. Let's go ahead and do that. Sorry. And then rotate by angle and duration. Well, what's the angle? I want to rotate this thing a full 360 degrees. So that's 2 times math pi. And in my duration, let's just say I want to do that over a period of 3 seconds. Now, if I just let that be the action, I could just add that to square. However, let's do this forever. Let's just keep this thing rotating through 360 degrees with a duration of 3 seconds forever. So let's go ahead and do that. So we add the action to the node. So square run action is the method that we call. And then I'm going to repeat it forever. So another class method of SKAction is SKAction repeat action forever. And then what am I repeating forever? Spin. And that does the trick. So we have added the action spin, making it repeat forever, and spin is the action that rotates the square one time for 3 seconds over an angle of a full 360 degrees. So now let's run that and see if we got it right. And we did. Now remember, in core graphics, 0 is pointing from the center here to 0 degrees, I should say, is pointing from the center straight left or straight right. And angles increase as they would on graph paper. In other words, angles increase as the angle opens out upward. So we're rotating through a positive angle of 360 degrees. If I wanted to rotate through a negative angle and change the direction of rotation, I would just negate 2. And now we have negative 360 degrees. And it works the same way. Again, I'm only doing one draw pass. The action is on the sprite itself, not on the scene. I have one node. The scene is only executing one draw pass, and I've got a frame rate, again, hovering around 55 to 60 frames per second. Okay, that's all working. So we're going to continue in Demo 3 exploring various things we can do with these actions and also adding nodes to the existing node that we have. Thank you very much.